Don't forget our gift cards at RitaYanez.com, and so am I. Under your bed. Turn on the light! Turn on the light! Turn on the light! Hi there, Cancer. This is your weekly reading for the week of December 14th through 20th. I hope you're doing well. I hope everything's going your way, and I hope your holidays are off to a wonderful start. This is going to be an interesting week, but don't overfocus emotionally on the obvious signs that you see here. I'll explain it to you, of course, shall we? On Monday, the card that you've drawn is the 10 of Cups in reverse. This is a card that indicates that there's some imbalance in the home environment, and whether this is something that you're propagating or that somebody else is remains to be seen. I think with the omens that I'll give you, you'll be able to figure this out, because if you do extract the emotion, which is not impossible for you, Cancer, it could be difficult for you to learn to do, but once you do it, it's like riding a bike. You'll never forget. And I'm sure you've had at least one or two teachers, come through your life to try to teach you to express yourself and to not bottle it in until the moment comes that you blow, which with you guys, it's actually more of an implosion. This could be due to Libra's hosting Mars in your solar fourth house. Mars here can make a person very aggressive and or controlling. The reason why I think it could be something you need to watch for is that with Uranus in Aries, your solar 10th house, this could become a very outward thing where people kind of see this happening and maybe they pull you aside and say, hey, are you okay? Because you don't look okay. And then you kind of do one of those, fine, and then of course those people know you're not okay. There is emphasis, a whole lot of it, on your sixth house, which is your daily activities, your workaday sector, the things that you do almost routinely, the communications that you have as such. And in that sense, you could also include maybe some information that has to do with small pets that you either carry with you or are a part of your life. They could end up needing more attention than usual. And there could be an actual situation that relates to a relationship, and somehow the work thing is not balanced with the home thing, and we'll talk about more of that as well. Sun in Sagittarius, again, that solar sixth house for you, squaring Jupiter in Virgo, your solar third house of communication. Of course, this challenging aspect is trying to get you to better articulate your feelings without allowing them to be blown out of proportion. Jupiter in Virgo has a tendency to make things just big, hot, gassy, and airy. Picture Donald Trump. I just love to use him as an example because he's actually a very good example of somebody who has forum because he has the money to stand there and say a bunch of bullshit, nonsense, hot air, things that really don't amount to anything, yet there he is communicating it and people are aware of it whether they want it or not, right? It becomes something that whether wittingly or unwittingly we hear it, it becomes something that is implanted into our consciousness in one way or another. So this same kind of energy is what I want you to watch for, because it could be two things. It could be that you are the one that just starts blowing a bunch of steam that in the end won't amount to anything, and you could be embarrassed by it later, or somebody does this to you and you don't keep your boundaries set and you end up becoming very reactive and saying things that could even affect you to the detriment of either your home environment or your work environment or both. I know a lot of people that finally lose it and they decide, you could take this job and Dolly Parton shove it. If you're my age, you know what that means. And it could also indicate that something surprising happens where you could be having a reaction to something that an employer says to you. And that is what becomes the most outward symptom of this problem. Okay, Mercury in Capricorn will sextile Neptune in Pisces, Capricorn being your solar seventh house. That's the partnerships, the close committed friendships, the working relationships. Sometimes if you own the bakery together, proverbially speaking, then of course that's the person you're working with every day. This could also be your roommate, your flatmate, somebody who you work with consistently, or is your committed relationship or marriage partner. And with Mercury there wanting to communicate and Neptune and Pisces being your solar ninth house, there could be some ramifications of some prior asset and debt division having to do with the divorce, a marriage, a thing, an inheritance, something else that has happened in the past that now has to be finalized or smoothed over. There is a potential here to smooth things over, even with an ex-spouse or partner or business associate, that kind of thing. So make sure that you're not, again, allowing that Mars and Libra to destabilize you to the point where it's almost like shooting your foot instead of solving the problem. On Tuesday, we have the High Priestess in reverse, and this is a card that indicates that someone is not using their intuition, their gut instinct, their primitive responses and senses. Okay, so this is where you would need to watch to see if there's something in the peripheral that you need to be aware of or should have been aware of by this time and have not been able to hone in on it, zero in on it because you're relatively young. And of course, if you're only in your 20s, we have to remember, what have I told you before? The juvenile brain doesn't finish developing until approximately age 25. That should answer a lot of questions for you. And if you're just outside the threshold and you're 26 and you're like, Rita, my brain is cooked, well, then you need real life experience. And I tell people, keep your ass in college. At that point, just stay in there. Just stay in there. Finish your degrees. Do what you need to do. At the same time, you're getting practical experience and working with people in the real world without having to be at risk of doing things like marriage. I don't think that should ever happen until their 30s. Children, same thing, 30 something, guys, 40s. This should give you some ability to see how pacing yourself would help you, using your time to be able to gain experience and wisdom that in terms of the ultimate trajectories are what help you find your way safely back home to your core, to the foundation of your belief systems and even your own inherent stability. You are the ruler of the fourth house. And so as such, we need to keep in mind that these are things that need to be kept very sacred and sane at home. Venus in Scorpio is coming up to sextile Pluto and Capricorn. This day, Tuesday, I want you to remember that the High Priestess could represent some of that energy coming towards you where information about a partnership, about a relationship, about a close bond is coming up for review. And it could be regurgitated, of course, in some way. But as such, it is time to start thinking about this. What do you really feel? What you say, what you're communicating, are you saying what you really mean to? Are you hoping that somebody is able to infer what you imply? Because you might as well just sit there playing ping pong in the dark. If you don't express yourself, no one else has the opportunity to understand you and ask you questions, ergo understand you better. On Wednesday, we have the Seven of Pentacles, and this is a card that indicates that you're feeling somewhat tired of waiting around for the right situation. Maybe you're a single Cancerian type, and you're feeling like, when will the right person come along in my life? Well, enjoy the process. Sometimes it's all about digging for the needle in the haystack, but if you don't get in the haystack, you're never going to find the needle anyway. So part of the trial and error process that some people like me, I like to raise my hand and say I'm a serial dater. And, as such, I've already experienced all kinds of negative things as well as the positive things. And so in the process, what do? We discover what we have patience for. With the Seven of Pentacles, I get the idea that you're running out of patience. But I think also with that sextile of Venus and Scorpio to Pluto and Capricorn, that you have the ability to either, and it could be either way, both of them just as significantly, for your romantic relationships to have a level of communication as long as you're being honest and forthright, and that other person is too, right? Perfect world. Or with your relationship that is your marital partner, your significant other, etc., that these communications could help even deepen the relationship. But everybody needs to be open and honest about what they want and need. And likewise, unfortunately, at times, we're communicating or receiving communications from people that they no longer want or need what it is that we want or need. It just happens. If people can kind of shake hands and say, go, before any lying to each other starts or before any underhanded tactics begin to show, it's best to just part ways anyway, right? That way you may not have to be or feel like being friends, but at least you don't have to part with enemies type energies and saying, well, that person is just a freaking liar. And that's why we're not together. If everybody just parts on good terms, we're apt to say better things about the person that we're in relationship with or were. On Thursday, we have the Three of Swords, and I know it's kind of like, what is that? Well, of course, it could look like a strawberry, but it's not a strawberry. It's supposed to be a heart. And this is where, again, we need to utilize that Venus, Scorpio, and Pluto Capricorn sextile, because Mars and Libra could have us saying some things that we can't take back if we allow Uranus and Aries to just come and kibosh, kick us in the ass, and then we're feeling like we're just going to say whatever, which I do have to say, if you've been in a situation where you haven't spoken up for yourself, which is very likely being Cancer, by the time you speak up for yourself, it's too late, or then water goes under the bridge. That never should have been diverted that way, and it should have been handled early on, which, if we just admit this, and everybody's got a little bit of Cancer, of course, in their chart. Everyone has it somewhere or another. The problem with being a Cancer sun or rising sign, or having a heavy moon placement as well, would indicate that there are things that you should have communicated or been more open and forthright about long before. And then by the time it comes out, or worse, when somebody excavates this or digs the bones up from the graves, then you're not really happy that somebody sees this at all. But then somebody else could say, well, I asked you this question over and over 2 years ago, and you never gave me a straight answer. And, thinking about it and shoulda, woulda, coulda means nothing, but it is, there to help us understand how to better communicate in the future. For some of you, of course, this is a card that could indicate that there is a love triangle. It's not always this way, but I just want to bring it up because there's enough evidence here that some of you, if not a good chunk of you, will be experiencing something such as this. And by this time, you probably already know what I'm talking about, where you have been dating somebody consistently and you thought it was okay. Maybe the communication could have been better between the two of you, and then you find out that this woman is dating somebody else, or she's got 5 other friends on one of these whisper type apps or something, and you're like, what is that all about? You're not even in a public relations profession, and you sure are relating heavily to these people. And so there could be that kind of energy. Of course, it could be likewise that you have been dishonest, and that would be vice versa, wouldn't it? Be there, I'm not saying that all Cancers are saints, but it's harder for me to picture you guys being that way. Sometimes I've noticed that Cancer people, Cancer types, Cancer risings even, can be a little dishonest, and they do that by hiding things that they don't want other people to know about. And it would be the same thing as me saying, hey, look, if you were dating this chick and everything was great and you were hoping one day to be intimate with her, and she just happened to never tell you that she is a man or was one, you'd be pretty upset about that too, because you would have preferred that somebody tell you this in the very beginning from hello. Hi, my name is Charlotte and I'm really a man, or I was. And so the same vein, if there was something that you were keeping to yourself, like, look, I really have had these smashed up problems, and I've been divorced 5 times, and I'm just letting you know, that's something that you might need to wait a little bit, because of course, the first time and subsequent times your relationship, your primary partnership is not a therapist, not yet. You can vent at them later, but this is something that eventually you would say. So often we see 3 of Swords situations come up when people might have missed the boat as to when they needed to say that they never intended to be exclusive, or that they were just kind of sampling the candy it sees to see which one they liked, and maybe you would have wanted to know sooner. If that's the case, then I just say the sooner that it's discovered that the relationship is not compatible, or that it no longer is what both people need, then let's just let that thing go. There is a little bit of an element here that I do want to notice for you, that you could have a health issue that has been put on the back burner, and you're about to figure out that you need to get your health checkups in order. I'm not prognosticating that everybody's walking around with some major problem, but Cancer, you have a type to get so busy, and you're working all the time and doing all the time and doing, and then you don't get your annual health checkups in there, and you have no clue what your blood cholesterol levels are, and before you know it, boom, it's time for a stint. The reason why I say this is that the sun is in Sagittarius, or solar 6th house, which not only coincides with your work and your workaday sector and the small pets and everything I mentioned, including your health, it's also the way you take care of yourself, or that you haven't. And so the sun being in the sector, of course, will be like a giant ass spotlight, and it's saying, hey, could you check this out? Do you know why you don't feel good? You drink, you smoke, you eat junk food, you're at McDonald's every other day or worse, and you don't prepare anything from scratch. You're eating cardboard in a microwave or on a pizza board. That's the kind of thing that the sun is Sagittarius for you in your solar astrology, solar 6th house. You'd have to check that to see if you're a Cancer ascendant, especially so. And if you don't know your other placements, you might want to try out any of the free tools on the internet. If you've got your birth time Exactly. We need that exact, and your location and the date, of course. You need to enter that in there. There's a ton of free ones. Don't pay to have it done. There's a tool on my webpage. It's not my favorite, but if you go to ritayanez.com, you'll find that tool there somewhere. And also, this could indicate that in terms of a job, a work situation, that you are feeling upset because you get some news that is just either intolerable or very unfortunate, and you're upset either way. If that's the case, let it come and go. Let the emotion pass. Don't internalize it. Talk to somebody that is a good friend of yours and would not play you up and in any way make things worse. You need to talk to somebody, maybe a certified coach, an assistant, a therapist, a counselor, somebody whose career is there to design to help people figure out how to cope with these everyday situations. And I'm not ameliorating how any of these situations would feel. Of course, it's sensitive, but moving past it is part of the process of moving forward. On Friday, the card that you've drawn is the Four of Swords in reverse. This is a card that indicates that it's time to dust it off and keep moving forward. If a relationship ends or needs to, cut the umbilical cord and be done with it. Move on. Try to figure out where you went wrong, either choosing the same type of person again, or if you say, look, Rita, I'm really hurting about the big one, the fish that got away. Well, you could go back into the fish and see if you could, into the pond and see if you could fish that same one up that you really liked from long ago. But you know what? By that time, they're probably hook shy, and they're not going to come anywhere near a thing that's shiny, wiggles, and looks like it has a magic feather hat on. The fish get smart. They're especially wise in places where people do catch and release. They know you're going to get hooked, and you'll get thrown in after you're freaking traumatized and bleeding from a gill. So this is a card that also indicates that it's time to get up and take some action. And it could be proactive in terms of if you did have a health hiccup, or you find out, right about now, or you go get those blood tests and find out here soon that there are some changes that need to be made. I mean, look, if you smoke, obviously you need to quit smoking. If you drink, obviously you need to quit drinking. There's nothing wrong, I think, with a glass of wine here and there. With a meal or something, I don't drink at all, so it isn't part of my experience, but it used to be where my ex-husband and I, we used to have a glass of wine with dinner every night, and that was kind of after we got everybody's chores and everything taken care of and dinner at the table, and we had a huge family. Then, of course, it was kind of our tradition. He didn't like us to go past one glass of wine, so he was always the one making Rita put the glass of wine away. So that was a part of my experience, and it can be very good for you, but like anything else, wine is wine, and a nice dark red wine, a Merlot, is good for you. I think that you'll hear a lot of people say a little bit here and there, have a glass, not a giant frickin' one of those party margarita glasses, but beer is something that really isn't good for you. What it does is it causes the body to accumulate subcutaneous fat right on the gut. The beer gut is a real thing. Go somewhere where people drink a lot, like Ireland or Wisconsin, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. These people are in really bad shape. They have a tendency to drink a lot, smoke a lot, eat a lot, and it really isn't good for you. So this could be the proactive measure you need. Maybe you're just hooked on too much sushi. One of these days you're going to get that one pufferfish thing and cut wrong, and something wrong goes there. Just, everything in moderation would be good for you right around now. Also here, we're coming off the sun in Sagittarius. Again, your solar sixth house of work and everything you do every day, including your body and how you take care of it or don't. Squaring the north node in Virgo, which is your third solar house. And this is, of course, where we need to make an adjustment and think about what it is that needs to be faced and worked with. The reason why I think you have to face something is because, of course, the north node is opposite the south node, which is sitting in your solar ninth house of Pisces. Ninth house of legal matters and all of these other things like legalities and spirituality and higher education, or the lack thereof, whatever it is that you aspire to do. It seems like you have to face something first about your communication or the lack of it, which could be the lack of your ability to push the button on the internet and go to your online courses, because maybe that's where you need to brush up. So I believe if you face whatever this is, you'll see how easy it will be soon enough to get your advanced education. And if you're young enough, if you're just coming out of high school, well, then get your ass in college now. There's nothing else you're supposed to be doing. If you're in your senior year and you happen to be listening to this one, as I know a lot of you write me to tell me that you listen to both, especially those that are cuspy, right there on the edge of disaster, into the real world, then what should you be doing? You shouldn't be doing anything else but maybe working your part-time creepy job somewhere and going to school full-time. As such, that will help you achieve the balance in your life. Now, if you're older and this has not been effective for some reason or another, or it just wasn't part of your experience, it could be maybe that you just need to broaden your experiences, open your mind, become less tunnel vision about communicating with other people. Maybe you're going from being a right-wing Republican all the way to the left liberal side where there's margaritas and a party for everybody. Here, the Ace of Cups upright is talking about a kind of spiritual renewal, which is very much like the ninth house anyway, where you could be feeling better about yourself, even if it means that you have to just take a deep breath and move forward with these situations that might be haunting you from the past. It might not even be a current relationship issue, but it could be that your association or your memories that are too tightly tied to some relationship from the past is keeping you from moving forward. And it could be, I will add, that you've become too controlling, jealous, or possessive because you did lose the one big silvery fish that got away, and now you're afraid that everyone, I could just see a guy totally going nuts and trying to hold on to a woman and then squeezing her so tight she pops out of the hand like a greasy fish anyway because of the one that got away. So there are some unresolved issues that I think you would do well to kind of face off as well so that you can move forward in your state of evolution and to find greater happiness and joy. The Five of Cups in reverse here is good because it indicates to me that you are beginning to see the light, that crying over spilled milk does nothing but make you shed tears and get puffy eyes, and then you can't glue your eyelashes on. And or if you're a male, of course, you know that it does nothing but make you want to drink or something like people do when they're doing things that are an unhealthy manifestation of experiencing the emotion and then letting it go and moving past it, even if that means when the monster comes out from the closet or slithers out from under the bed that you smack it like the whack-a-mole game, or turn on the lights and say, screw you, monster, you're not there. I'm not afraid of anything because I've already been it. Yeah, I lost the big fish that got away. There's plenty of fish in the sea. And likewise, if you're going through an experience at work, it might be that you're overloaded at this time of year, that you could inadvertently overcommit. You don't need to kiss butt at work. You're good enough already to where you don't have to go brown nosing, because what ends up happening, Cancer, is the same thing that always does to you. You end up committing, overcommitting, and then becoming resentful. And who do you take it out on? The people at home closest to you, because they're the ones more apt to listen. But this is the kind of week, my friend, that you may have people popping out of your hands and moving away from you.